Welcome to the Rock Fight, where we speak our truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. This is an outdoor podcast that aims for the head. I'm Colin True, and today, well, it's time. We've been circling a gear segment here on the Rock Fight for a long time because the way gear and stuff is covered by legacy outdoor media, it's kind of antiquated. Frankly, it's boring as hell. So today, I am excited to announce the first edition of Rock Fight's Gear and Beer. Joining me is Justin Hausman. What's up, Justin?
Hi, Colin.
And here's how this is going to work.
It's Colin, right? It's Colin?
It is. Yeah, nice to meet you. The listicle has taken the place of criticism and a gear review for most out there, and it's just often an opportunity to make money from an affiliate link. So what we're going to do is we're going to treat the gear the same way we treat everything else here at the Rock Fight. You know, what are the conversations we have when we're out riding, skiing, surfing, hanging out at the trailhead? There are as much gear-based conversations as they are reviews. Each episode of one of these, one of us will bring forth a piece of gear, a shoe, some apparel, a suitcase, pot, pan, lantern, perhaps, whatever. We'll talk about it. Then we'll end the episode with the perfect beverage to pair with the gear and activity we talked about today. And lastly, because we believe here that just too much stuff is being made, we're going to rate each product on what we're calling the stuffometer, a scale where the best score means humanity and society would actually be losing something if this thing went away, and the worst score means that this thing, regardless of performance, probably shouldn't exist in the first place. So we're ready for the first episode of Gear and Beer. Justin, are you ready?
I'm ready. I thought about bringing this piece of gear into my house to make a cool sound effect, but then I looked at how muddy it was, and I couldn't do it.
Ooh, good tease. Let's get into today's gear. Welcome to Gear and Beer. This is gear. All right, man, you have the floor for today's gear. What are we talking about?
Well, so we just wrapped up our previous recording, where Colin was professing his love for the most rudimentary kind of bike you could imaginable, because he hates e-bikes and anything that's been made in the last 50 years.
And e-bikers specifically.
Bike-related. Yeah.
Yeah. I push him over when I'm riding by him on trails,
So Colin's going to love this one, although he has the wrong make and model of the version that I'm about to talk about.
How dare you?
But today for inaugural Gear and Beer, I'm going to laud the Kona Unit X. It is Kona's bike packing bike. It is a steel frame, a rigid bike that I frankly think we need a lot more of in this world. If you have not, go over to adventurejournal.com, adventure-journal.com. Last week, I believe it was last week, might have been 2 weeks ago now. Depends on when you're hearing this, but I posted a review of the Kona Unit X. So if you want to get a little bit more nitty gritty, although I'm not really the kind of reviewer that like dives deep into the weeds about technical specs, I don't really care that much myself about that sort of thing. I don't think you do really either. And you can get that from the manufacturer's website about any piece of gear anyway. So I mostly just talk about
readily available.
Yeah, I mostly just talk about my use case for things and like why I think it matters. It's funny, I actually was thinking about this the other day. My gear reviews tend to kind of follow the pattern of the recipes that people love to make fun of, where it's like, I want to read a recipe for how to make like a French dip, and it's like the first 400 words about like the first time you had a French dip at your grandma's house and how good it was. People are just like, give me the recipe. Like that's kind of my gear reviews though. It's like, here's.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's like, we know stuff mostly works. I mean, that's kind of the thing about this segment, right? It's like we kind of recognize that stuff mostly works.
It's hard
right?
to find crappy shit now. So like everything's going to be kind of fine, and like you kind of know, if you're into gear at all, I shouldn't have to tell you like, okay, it's a steel frame rigid bike. You're probably going to go, okay, probably weighs like 28 to 32 pounds. You kind of know, right? Like, do you need me to break that down? I guess I could. But anyway, so that's what we're talking about today, the Kona Unit X. So I've had this bike for, I should look it up. I would guess like 8 months, probably a couple different seasons at least of riding. And I got it with the intention of using it as a bike packing bike. So it is, like I said, it's a steel frame bike. It's a rigid frame bike, and it's loaded with mounting points. So I mean, this is like Kona's like workhorse bike packer, and they've made the Kona Unit, which is a single-speed version, for at least 20 years. I'm not sure how long they made the Unit X, but the Unit X has a 1x12 drivetrain, so you get some gears.
Perfect.
Which is all you need. I mean, I'll get into why I love like a steel frame bike in a minute, but the other thing that's great about the Unit X is it doesn't have a lot of moving parts, so it's pretty cheap. It's $15.99, I think. And it has Shimano Dior drivetrain, which I think is wonderful. I like my preferred like component level for anything is the Shimano SLX series. Like I love, I feel like SLX is the perfect blend of like performance and durability. Anything above that, like XT stuff is cool, but you don't really need it. Like I've just found that SLX is perfect. And Dior is, honestly, I think it's probably the same like,
it's fine.
moving parts as SLX. It just has like a plastic body instead of a metal body on a lot of the stuff. Like it's fine. I've never had an issue with any Dior stuff. And
somewhere out there, a bike nerd is screaming at us, but it's
fine.
I
mean, it weighs 6 ounces more than SLX, maybe, which weighs 2 ounces more than XT, and whatever.
Right.
And if you're into SRAM, God help you. I don't really. I'm a Shimano guy. I can't really. And it has like Shimano's like I'm pretty sure they're 4-pot brakes. Hydraulic, obviously, but they're MT410s or whatever. Like they don't even give them a fun name. But they work. Everything works. It worked great, and it has. It's. I think it weighs 31 pounds, so it's not the lightest bike in the world, but it's not offensively heavy. But I think of it as more of an adventure bike, and that's kind of what my review was getting into. I haven't bike packed on it, even though that's what it's for. But what's great about it is it just like I just don't have to think about it. I don't even put it inside a lot. Because it's like there's, like I don't care. It can get rained on. I'll leave it out there. I'll hose it off. I'll dry it off. It's fine. I'm not worried about like the fork getting like weird water in it. I'm not worried about like the shock being exposed to like temperature changes. You don't have to service that crap. And it's just such a joy to ride. It comes with, it's a 29er. It comes with 2.6 inch tires. It'll take up to 3 inches if you want. I run mine with the frame bag all the time, and I have an Old Man Mountain rack on the back. I think it's the Divide rack, and they make Old Man Mountain makes these just beautiful racks that are built for like rough riding, so it doesn't rattle.
Yeah.
And I'll throw a blanket on there. I'll throw like a book, maybe a couple beers in the frame bag, and I'll just ride up into the hills and like park it. Maybe I'll go fishing, and I can throw like a collapsible rod in the frame bag or whatever. And I can do all this with my full suspension bike too. It just feels weird, like it feels like it's overkill to do that sort of stuff. I can ride it to the store. I frequently do. Like I can put my like 4-year-old on the back, and she could hold she could sit on the rack and hold my waist, and like I can ride her around like that. And it's just a do-it-all bike. I love that kind of thing. I've covered the Husky Doggler a lot, which is a similar idea. It's a rigid bike. It's aluminum with a carbon fork, and it's a flat bar gravel bike. It's a little bit less burly, but it's the same kind of thing. Like it's like a bike when you were 12. You had a bike that did everything, and that's what this is. And it's a bargain at $1,500. It will last forever. I wrote like a follow-up piece. I wrote the review of the Unit X, kind of talking about why I like the bike, and then like I published a review, and like a day later, I was like, you know what else I love about these? Like, you don't like. I'm never gonna get itchy feet about like having to get the newer one because it will be exactly the same, And it's like my full suspension bike. I think it's probably 4 model years old now, and in another couple of years it's gonna look funky. Like I'm gonna look at it and be like, damn it, I look like that guy who bought a bike 10 years ago and hasn't, which is cool. Like in everything else that's cool, but with like a mountain bike, if it's 10 years old, you look like an idiot, right? So like and you're never gonna have that problem with this bike. Like they age so well. I mean, like the coolest bikes around are rigid frame, steel frame bikes, and that's what this is. And it's just going to get better over time.
Like anybody who's listened to this podcast long enough knows I talk a lot about my Surly Karate Monkey. I have all the same thoughts on a rigid bike. I've been a little hyperbolic about it intentionally mostly because of the sort of the bike weenies out there who just have to have all the most modern stuff, and it's got to do this and it's got to do that. And I think the reason why I like the rigid bike so much is because it's like, actually, if you go and ride a rigid bike, I don't care how good of a mountain biker you are. And yes, maybe if you're a super downhill guy, whatever, like it's not, or gal, it's not gonna do those things. But if you go ride a rigid mountain bike on just your local trails, you're gonna realize like, oh, I can ride this pretty much the same as I ride every other bike that I have. It's going to perform pretty much the same.
Yep.
And you have way less to think about. It's just a simpler experience. I mean, you're poking fun at me at the beginning about our other conversation on the last episode about, hating e-bikes. I recognize the importance of them to the category, but there is something to be said for just the simple form of the bike, and it just how effective it is in terms of like creating joy and practicality in terms of, like you said, go to the grocery store, those kinds of things. And I guess my big addition to your thoughts on this bike, and I've not ridden this bike, but it's got to be similar to my experience on the Karate Monkey, is, everybody has, like, if you're able financially and space-wise to have a quiver, and you don't have sort of a rigid steel bike, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, as much as you want to have your super, e-bike, full suspension, whatever, you should also have just the basic rigid steel bike. Because by the way, like you said, Justin, you're never going to need to replace it. It's a one-time purchase, and it's probably going to be the cheapest bike you own.
Yeah, and the cool thing about this one too is you can get weird out there. You can go to the Radavist and like discover all kinds of boutique bike makers that are making steel frame bikes and spend $5-6 grand if you want to, but you don't have to. Like, I mean, that's a bargain. It sucks that that's a bargain, but that's a bargain these days at $1,500 for a bike like this. So like you get
it needs to have a dropper though. You said
it doesn't have a dropper. It doesn't have a dropper, but that's not a big deal. It's also awesomely. I'm pretty sure this is right. It's routed for mostly an external. I think there's a port at the bottom of the seat tube, so like you don't have to route it through like if you want to route a dropper post, it'd be an external cable along the down tube. Into a port in the seat tube, so you wouldn't have to like.
That's where my Surly is too.
I was gonna. The Husky I got didn't have a dropper post, and the port was at the head set, and I was just like, shit. Like I took that because it's really hard to route that. But like this one would be really easy to do it yourself. So you go to P&W, buy an Epic dropper post for like $150. Good to go. You get your dropper. Yeah, because that is
as much as I talk about the simplicity and the practicality of like the basice bike. I like a dropper spot.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. Like it's like if I go over a curb without a dropper post, I'm terrified I'm gonna go over the bars. Like well, it sucks. Plus, honestly, I'd be fine. I'd probably be fine on a full suspension bike without a dropper post at this point because you have a bit more confidence. I mean, rigid bikes are fun and they're great, but if you're going fast downhill over anything with rocks or roots, you'll feel it. And if you're only ridden,
you're pumping your brakes a little more.
Yeah, it's a little different and like. You're definitely going to be a little bit more like wishing you could like slam it so you could be in a bit more control. But other than that, but it's no big deal. Just get one with a dropper or just add a dropper. You're good to go.
Describe the chromoly steel experience because like I have a tough time kind of putting into words why I enjoy riding a steel bike, but there's a feeling to it that I've never experienced on a tie or aluminum bike.
I mean, it's interesting. It's kind of I usually say it just feels more pure. And I don't even know what I mean by that. It just feels like a more pure feeling. There's a dampening sensation, and they're really compliant. And so if you take like even like a real good like alloy frame over like a chattery trail, I mean you'll feel it, and you'll feel it with the steel bike too. But it soaks it up a bit more. It feels alive. Like
I remember my first ride on my steel bike. It was again 29ers, like 2.5, 2.6 inch tires, kind of like yours. And I remember taking it out specifically thinking I took it on a pretty rocky trail around here just to say like, okay, I'm going to ride this once and then I know I'm going to take it right back to my shop and have them put a fork on it on the Karate Monkey.
Yeah.
And I rode like 5 miles and I'm like, this is great. Just like hitting rocks and like I don't know why it feels smoother on the steel versus other materials. I mean, it's like, look, there was no fork, so that you're not getting any sort of absorption. So it was different, but it wasn't as severe as I thought it was going to be.
And I don't know enough about how metals work. Like I don't know if steel is more flexible than aluminum. I presume it probably is. So I think there's some flexibility to it. Yeah. And I think that there's probably also, but it also could just be the weight of steel. Maybe it just is able to absorb bumps more. But it just feels like there's a dampening sensation with steel. But I also feel like it's not like you feel it bend, but it feels pure. It feels a little bit alive. It feels like it just feels different. Plus usually because steel is so much stronger, the tubes are smaller. So like you're not looking at a 3-inch across, like most mountain bikes, if it's carbon or aluminum now, the top tube is really thick, so like you have this nice like broom handle size like tube. All the tubes are small, so the bike looks more elegant.
Yeah, looks more just timeless.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier about like you don't. So that was actually the secondary article I wrote for AJ. It's not so much that you don't have to upgrade it; it's more that it's timeless. It's that like it's never going to look old. And if it does, it's probably because bar shapes have changed. So you slap some new handlebars on it or slap some different tires on it. But like, I mean, there's just something so classic about. I mean, you could pull out like an old steel frame bike from the 50s and it'd be like, oh, that bike is beautiful, and that's how this will be.
All right, so some specific product questions to answer. Like number one, like this bike obviously it seems like it performed as advertised.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I haven't bike packed on it, but I mean, it obviously would be badass doing that. So yeah.
Would you buy it with your own money?
Yes.
As a gear reviewer, you tend to get things. That's why I'm asking you that.
Yeah, I know, but yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So let's move into the stuff question. Like, should it exist? Do we need it? And I guess really it comes down to where does this rank on the stuffometer? Again, 10 is the world is a worse place if this thing doesn't exist. One is puff and drinkware.
I mean, I guess, like emotionally 10.
Okay.
In all reality, I don't know, 7 or 8. I mean, like there's other steel frame bikes out there. You know, like I don't know that this one's doing anything different than your Karate Monkey is. You know, so like steel frame bikes generally, like a steel frame rigid bike for like general adventure use, 10. The Kona Unit X, I don't know. Depends on. I haven't ridden yours. Like I haven't ridden a Crust.
I can't imagine you noticed much of a difference.
I doubt I would. You know, this to me, I'm extremely happy with the performance of this bike. I could not be more pleased. I mean, I review a lot. I don't review. I'm not like I don't work for like Pink Bike. You know, so I don't review new bikes every day. But I mean, I've ridden a lot of bikes I haven't ridden about. Like I had a Moots for a while, like an $11,000 Thai gravel bike. I never wrote a review because I'm like I don't see the point. Like I mean, I don't mean to just. Beautiful bike, very well made. No complaints about how it rode. I mean, it was a really good bike, but I can't, in all honesty, recommend someone buy a $11,000 bike. It just didn't seem a purpose to it to me. So I
think you're right in that 7.5 to 8 range, just because the timelessness of the steel bike, it's never going to go out of fashion. You're always going to have it unless you just decide to get rid of it because you just want to get rid of stuff. You're not going to get rid of it because
you could forget you had this bike for 20 years, go out, get some chain lube, and it would be exactly the same. Like if I did that with my full sus bikes, the forks would lock up. You know, like it just like.
That's what I mean. I think there's probably a lot of like modern mountain bikes or gravel bikes or road bikes that are just like they're like $5,000 disposable items.
Well, they really are. I mean, it's I talk about this with surfboards a lot, where it's like you kind of don't think about it that way because you sell it. Like that's the thing with bikes, right? Like you buy a bike. Have you ever thrown a bike in the garbage? In your life? No. So like you buy it, but you don't, you probably owned 30 bikes in your life, and maybe you have 4 now, right. You know, like I'm the same way. And it's like, I probably owned, I don't know, 100 surfboards in my life. I've never thrown one away, but now I only have 4. So like, where are the other one? Like, cause you sell it. So you buy a bike, you ride it for a few years, and then you sell it, and that person sells it, and that person sells it, and eventually it goes to the landfill. Like you don't think of it as disposable because you didn't throw it away, but it is to you. And so like, I hate that. And I hate that in all things. I hate that, especially in something like a really expensive bike. So,
all right. So what's the official score? 7.5, 8, 8.5?
I guess 8 feels right.
8
feels right. With the option that it probably could be a 10. I would need to ride like every other steel frame bike to be like, okay, specifically this one. I mean, I will say I've looked at photos of the Karate Monkey, and I do think that the geometry on the Kona Unit X looks a little bit slacker. It might not be. I haven't looked at the numbers. It looks a little slacker. It looks a little bit more like it's designed to get rowdier. That's the other thing I like a lot about it. That like if you did put a suspension fork on it, I think it would be a super fun hardtail for even some complicated riding. Like it's real snappy. Awesome. It's really it steers really nicely. It feels, in some ways, it would be like if you owned like an M series Beamer, which would be like, I don't know, pick like a Transition Sentinel or whatever, like some badass trail slayer, right? And then you went and got in like an MG where everything was analog and like direct feedback from it didn't have power steering. That's kind of what it's like, where you feel every pebble. The steering is super direct. You feel it's like, or like running in barefoot shoes. Like you feel you are really intimate with the experience on a bike like this, where you're so far removed on like an E mountain bike full suspension thing where you're basically just flying over stuff you're not even aware it's there. This is the exact opposite experience.
I think you and your bike need to get a room, man. Like, you know, you're getting intimate with your bike.
I like bikes. I like bikes that, you know, I like bikes that feel good, Colin.
All right. Well, let's now turn our attention to after the activity. At the break, the put in the trailhead, we're going to crack open the cooler and imbibe a beverage so we can celebrate our wins and losses in the backcountry. Let's have a beer. Welcome to Gear and Beer. This is beer. So, Justin, you have to give your credentials here because you're going to make some beer recommendations to pair with, and we'll make some non-alcoholic ones too. But like, what are we going to go ripping around after we go? What are we drinking? That's what I'm trying to say. After we go ripping around on the Kona Unit X.
Well, hold on, let me see if I can make this work.
Okay.
You hear that?
Oh, that's gonna explode in your face.
Well, let's see. That sounds good.
I caught a little bit of it.
God, that sounds good.
A little bit.
God, do you hear? Nothing better than a freaking cracked can of beer. Hold on a sec. Okay, yeah, there it is. That's the spot. That's the stuff. So, thought really hard about. Oh, okay. So
Well, you got to give your back.
right.
Yeah,
Sorry. So annoyingly, probably to a lot of people out there,
No.
Well, I'm what's called a certified cicerone. Okay, so this is an actual like thing where the beer industry like 20 years ago was like, well, sommeliers in the wine business exist, so we should have that for beer.
They got jealous.
Kind of, but it's also like as craft beer started blowing up and like places that got really into beer wanted to kind of know like, okay, same reason you'd have a sommelier, right? Like you want somebody who you know that you're like you actually have that designation. You obviously know a lot. So I used to work in the beer industry. I ran like a huge beer bar, and the people that ran it agreed to send me to this like beer program to get like this certified training in beer. So this was actually really gnarly. Like it's a really hard test. It took me like 2 years to like study for it and to pass all the tests leading up to it. So
but what they didn't realize is that beer pairs better with gear than with food.
Well, you don't eat the gear though, Colin.
No, but just come on, you gotta go roll with the bit.
It's too literal for me, Colin. I haven't had enough of the Founders All Day IPA, which is what I've chosen for this.
Oh, spoiler! That's what we're talking about.
Well, you made me talk. You opened the door for me to talk about myself, so I was just I was just going right in there. But anyway, so yeah, I know my beer. I drink a lot of beer. I'm more of a beer expert than a gear expert. So when I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, this is a bike that you can ride every day, that you can take anywhere, that it's kind of, your go-to daily bike. And so it's like, all right, I think about beers like a Modelo or even like a Budweiser, or if you wanted to get super like funny guy, a Kona longboard lager. But what I went with...
That's on the nose. Little on the nose.
What I went with is the Founders All Day IPA, which is kind of... I feel like this is kind of a buzzy sort of beer right now. Not this beer particularly, but like a low alcohol... fully hopped beer. So I should have looked it up. I think it's right around 4.5% alcohol. So maybe 4.8, but like less than a Budweiser. But it tastes like not quite. It doesn't have the malty richness of like a true IPA, so it's a bit more on the pale ale scale.
Wait,
even though they call it an
like
IPA.
a 3.2 beer, isn't it?
No,
isn't it
Bud is 5, like a nice solid 5. 3.2.
A Budweiser is a 5?
Yeah, dude. But 3.2 is like a Utah beer. Nobody makes 3.2 beers. They do in Utah, but not in the rest of the.
Okay.
Not
this
in the
is
rest
why
of the
we have a cicerone on the show. Explain these things to me.
The official Rock Fight cicerone. Yeah, no, Bud's are right around 5. I mean, it might be like
you a t-shirt.
Might be like 4.9, but they're all right around there. Your average lager is about 5%. Whereas
I've had this beer, by the way, unknowing that it was from Michigan or anything. It was just some bar down here in San Diego recently. It's tasty.
Founders has been around for a while. We looked it up and when we talked about, so we already knew we were going to talk about this beer, folks. But yeah, we were both surprised it was from Michigan. I should have known that because I had Founders at the bar that I worked at. But this is also great because it comes in I've only ever seen it in 15 packs. I'm sure you can get it as a 6-pack.
Oh, no kidding.
And you can get Founders and lots of other. They make a ton of really good beers. But like the All Day IPA always comes in a 15-pack with like a big red sticker that's like 3 extra beers. And it's usually the same price as a 12-pack. It's great. So they're usually, I think I usually pay like $18 for a 15-pack, which is great. And it's what I take when I go camping always, because you can drink, you can have 3-4 of them in a day and you're not going to feel like hell. Again, it's something you can have every day. Like it's a great beer to just have in the fridge. You go for a ride on your Kona, or you don't. It's just a nice everyday sort of vibe. And it tastes great. Freaking tastes good.
So the practicality and the timelessness of the Kona Unit X is what pairs well with the Founders All Day every day.
But also it's not like you know what a Modelo one would be like a beach cruiser, right? Like a bike that you're never going to get excited about. It's just there. And I need to get from here to there, or like I need to have a beer. There it is. You have it. But like the Founders is great because like the Kona, it's a little spicy, right? Like it's a little, it's flavorful. Like it's a real bike. And the Founders, it's a beer for people who like beer, right? It's not just a beer for people who just want to have a beer. It's like you like the taste of hops. You like the taste of malt. This is a beer for people who like beer, but it's not complicated and it's not like going to dominate your existence. Same thing with the Unit X.
So what about our non-alcoholic pairing for folks who maybe don't drink listening? Is it sort of like, are we talking maybe like classic Mexican Coke, like just something like just like an easy drinking soda? Are we going more like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of hop waters, and so I don't really like There's very few non-alcoholic beers I like. So I'm sure people listening to this are big fans of Athletic Brewing. I've tried. I have no issue with Athletic Brewing. I'm super happy for their success. I think it's great. I think there should be a lot more NA beers. As far as I know, nobody has really cracked the code on those. My favorite NA beers are the ones from the big breweries. Like a Bud makes an epic one, like Bud Zero or something. It's in a white can. You don't see it that much, but it's really good. Heineken makes a great non-alcoholic beer. Stella makes a really good non-alcoholic beer.
All right.
But I don't know. I usually don't dig NA beers, but like hop waters are great. Like sparkling waters with flavor with hops and usually a little bit of like a grapefruit extract. Those are great. And you get the bitterness and the refreshingness of a beer, but without the booze, but without the sugar from like a Coke.
Right.
So yeah, do something like that. Or even a kombucha.
All right, we should talk about kombuchas. That's a great idea.
I'm not a big kombucha guy. I just want to make sure
that the non-drinkers are represented here on Gear and Beer.
Yeah, sure, I guess. Yeah.
So, okay, to summarize this episode of Gear and Beer, we have the Kona Unit X, a classic steel bike from a well-known bike maker and worthy addition to your cycling quiver. We've given the bike a 8 on the stuffometer. Should we allow whole numbers in the stuffometer? Should it be like an 8.1 or like a 7.9?
I think you could do. I think if it's an 8.2, it's an 8.2. But
you're saying 8. You're going right 8.
I think the Kona's a straight 8. But yeah,
straight 8. Okay.
I'd get way into it. You could have it 8.763 maybe. I don't know. Just to feel it out.
Eventually, what we do like something else similar. We'll see. We have to differentiate it somehow. But so not perfect on the stuffometer, but definitely not a detriment to society.
Yeah.
And after you get done being all hipster and badass on your fully rigid Unit X, we suggest that you refresh yourself with a Founders, is it All Day IPA?
What a great name, too. All Day IPA.
It's a great name. Yeah. All right, well, that's the show for today. What did you think of Gear and Beer? Do you have a suggestion for Gear and Beer? Do you simply like Gear and Beer? Send an email to myrockfight@gmail.com. Let us know what you think. The Rock Fight is a production of Rock Fight LLC. For Justin Hausman, I'm Colin True. Thanks for listening. And here to take us out, his gear, his guitar, and his beer. I think we said he's like a Bud guy. We're just going to call him a Bud guy. Chris DeMakes, if you're listening, right in. Are you a Bud guy? I don't know. But what I do know is that Chris DeMakes. Are you a Yingling guy? Hey, I grew up drinking Yingling. I know you did.
That was for you.
Yeah. He's here to sing the Rock Fight song. We'll see you next time, Rock Fighters.
It's good.
Oh, I caught that at the end. That was nice.